Hi, it's Mark, and today we're looking at some light painting in Lightroom. Now, a while ago, not that long ago, you would have to go into Photoshop to do this, but because Lightroom is so much better these days with its selection masks and control and command over local adjustment brushes, radial filters, linear gradients and such, we can do something like this. Here's the before, there's the after. If you'd like to learn how to do this, and I'm not bothered if you don't like this particular edit, it's the techniques I'm teaching you, then carry on watching. Click on that subscribe button for good measure. It makes you feel good, helps the channel. And click on the notification bell to be notified of future videos. And more importantly than that, look at the links down below. Go and get this raw file for yourself, load it on your computer, press pause, I'll wait for you. You got it yet? Okay, together we can go through this. That's the best way to learn. Enjoy. See you very shortly on the other side of the tiles. So here we are in sunny Lightroom with our raw file loaded, and we're going to start this light painting. Now normally you would have had to go to Photoshop for this, but Lightroom's developed over the years so that it's all possible within Lightroom. I dare say it might be a little bit quicker in Photoshop, probably because our muscle memory tells us how to use those tools because we've had to in the past for this effect, and now it's something new in Lightroom. But let's see what we can do. First thing first, I don't like the crop. There's a lot of wasted real estate here. So I press R for my recrop tool, and we will shrink that somewhat to there. I'm kind of going rule of thirds with the girl there. There's a little bit of anomaly with this wall down the right, which I think I'll just bring that in. And is it straight? Well, those lines do look straight. Yes, I'm quite happy with that. So we'll call it cropped, and I'll click there to complete it. Incidentally, R for my recrop tool. If you hover over the tool, it should tell you, there you are, crop overlay bracket R. So you can start to pick up some shortcuts en route. If you wanted local adjustments, I think it's Shift and W. I normally just click this, but let's hover over it. There you are, Shift and W. So Shift and W takes us into our local brushes and masks and such, which we're going to be using. But let's go back for the moment to this image. And I think I'm just going to brighten it up just a little bit and put a little bit more clarity into it, just to get some more definition in that brickwork. And other than that, I'm not going to bother for the moment. Key points to note: we've got a light here, we've got a light here, we've got a light here. There is a lightness down the left as we're looking there of this lady, so it suggests the sun is coming through from the left. You can see the bright sun outside, and indeed some of the shadows are endorsed on this lady's head here and the shoulder to infer that the sun is off to the right. And this could be an ideal opportunity down this side to show that the sun's coming in. But then there's lights, and there's where do the lights go. So let's start with the lights. So Shift and W. Let's try it out. There we go. So I was clicking that. Let's put a radial gradient, our first radial gradient, and I'm going to put it around this light, right from the center of the light there. Make sure that our feather is maximum, and I'm just going to put in a little bit of exposure to bring that up, like such. And I'm going to put a yellow tint into it because I think this whole thing's got a bit of a yellow look on the lighting. Let's try the exposure a little bit more, highlights a little bit more. Now, why would I favor highlights over exposure? Highlights are not going to lighten darks, and blacks aren't going to darken lights. Because these are within their bands, it will only lighten what is already kind of light in there. So if I bump the exposure up, it's a little bit more aggressive than if I was to use highlights and whites in there. Okay, so let's make that a little bit bigger. And the idea here is we're going to do concentric filters. So that's our first one. Let's make this easy for ourselves and duplicate it and move that one to that light and bring it in a little bit. And then let's duplicate that again. Now, of course, we could label all these so we know what's what, but I'm not going to bother with that just at the moment. Now this one would be a little bit more lost because there's already brightness behind it. So on this one I'm actually going to bring the exposure down a little bit from where it was. Come back to this one. I think I'm going to take the exposure up a little bit, and this one too. Yeah. Now what I want is it to be bright in the middle, so let's do another radial gradient. Now sometimes it's difficult to do radial gradients within radial gradients, but what I tend to do if that was the case is I do it to one side and drag it in. So radial gradient, go for that size, and I'm going to just drag it, put it in place, and I'm going to increase exposure on that again, put a yellow in it, and then I'm going to copy that one. I'm going to move that one to there too, make it a bit smaller. And this is the, I'm not going to bother, oh well I will, go on, why not, let's duplicate it again. Make it a little bit smaller. And go and put it in there. Okay, let's do one more which is going to be a bit strong in the middle. So, oh, where am I going? Create new mask. Pay attention, Mark, pay attention. Radial gradient, and I want it like that. I'm actually going to bring this up quite a bit, and I'm going to bring the yellow quite strong in it. I'll get some highlights in there as well. I'm going to put this right in the center of our light. Now that started to blow things out. I can confirm that probably by clicking on there, and yes, you can see how it's gone red. So that's a bit far too strong. I'm going to leave that on for the moment and roll it back till it disappears. I'll leave a little bit in, why not? It is an incandescent light bulb or whatever it is. There you are. And it looks almost like we've got a filament in there. So let's copy that. And drag it onto there. And I won't bother with the last light because there's too much other light going on in there. So we have gone from there to adding those lights. Now where do the lights cast? They kind of come straight down. Now I'm going to suggest where she's in line with this line here, which puts us over this one. Or she a little bit in front of it. I'm going to suggest that one. Right, sorry, thinking out loud. Let's get in with a radial gradient on the go. So we go radial gradient, and this one I'm going to say is a pool of light about here. So let's lighten the ground up there a little bit and put our yellow in. Some highlights in there. Highlights are not making too much of a difference. Let's bring the shadows up. Would whites add anything in there? A little bit. And a bit more yellow, I think, and roll that exposure back. It wouldn't be that strong. So there's our first one, which is underneath this light. So guess what? We're going to duplicate it and put it under her. So let's duplicate it. And then move that to under our girl. And of course it would be smaller. Now, although it would be fainter because it's further away, I think I will actually bump that up just a little bit. I want a little bit more definition on that because she's a key subject. And I don't want this one as bright because your eye will go there. So I want our eye to go to a slightly brighter bit, which is there. And let's duplicate that again. Oh. And let's move it to roughly under the third one. Make it much smaller. Now what we don't want is it on the back of her knees there. So we will subtract with a brush. The brush is kind of the okay size already. I'm just going to get it from behind her knees. I did a little bit too hard there, I've gone off to the side. So let's Control Z that. Let's zoom in a little bit to make this better. I'll press the space bar to get the hand tool up, and then I can drag and move it around. And with our subtract again, with a brush, we'll be a little bit more careful this time. Okay, let's zoom back out. Let's just click on Fit over here. And how have we got so far? Let's have a look. Before and after. The backslash key gives us our before and after. So we're getting that light painted there. Now what's wrong with that is, if this light's above her, and if this light's coming down through her, why isn't it on her head? Good question. So let's go back in here. Let's go to this one. And let's, because I want the same amount of light, let's just copy this one. I really should have started labeling these, but never mind. Let's duplicate it. And I'm going to move this up here. So how do we go about labeling these? It's very easy. I'm only doing this to get the same colour hair on a head. You come in here and you click on there, and we call it headlight. Did I spell that right? Yes, I did. Yeah, there we go. So now we've got that on a hair. Let's bring the exposure down a little bit. In fact, I also want it on her shoulder, probably a little bit as well, so bear with me. But I don't want it around the outside, so let's do that subtract tool. So I want to go here, subtract with a brush, make my brush a bit smaller. The red line you see, by the way, is just so you can follow my cursor a little bit better. It's not part of Lightroom. So I've got that light on her hair. So let's have a look what that looks like. Off and on. Oh, I'm still way out on the outside, aren't I? A bit bigger. Tell you what, I'll stick my overlay on so I can see where I'm painting. Right, so overlay off with the letter O, or indeed click the button there, switch that off and on. That's a bit better. Little tiny bit still over her head, over the top of her head, just there. And then overlay off, and then off and on. Right, and now we're going to duplicate that. And I'm going to drag it down to her shoulder, there. Actually the middle of her back. And I'll widen it. And yes, it's had some subtraction on, but I think that's actually, I'm getting away with that. Right, so that puts the light on her. How have we got so far? Backslash before and after. Alright, this one's a little bit too bright for me now, so let's go back to that one. I think that is a little bit too bright. Go there. But in relation to this one, I still want that one a little bit less. Okay, so what's happening now is we've got light above hitting the floor, we put some highlights on her, we need to have this light coming in from the side now. So let's create another mask by using a brush. And let's have our auto mask on. Auto mask means that if I brush on this side of this thing, it doesn't come over the edge, it tries and detects the edges. So what we're going to do is, I did a Control Z there, brush a bit bigger, and I want the feather as big as possible, and I'm going to brush off to the side here because I want it just to be feathered coming in, like that, a little bit more at the top there. And then what we'll do, just bring the exposure up there, again add the yellow in, possibly a little bit more up here, just because the sun would be higher in the sky, so I guess that works, that it should be right at the top. So we're bringing that in from the side, the shadows a little bit. I don't like that little gap at the top, so I'll just push a bit more in there. I've got that going there. Do I want it stronger? Yes, I do. Now the same will be true on this next one. Now this is a little bit more difficult because I still want it quite feathered. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw my line down. I'm going to do a new brush. New brush. And I'm going to draw my line down. The mask is almost helping, but not quite, so I do need to cut this off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract. In order to subtract, if I just hold my Option key or Alt key on a PC, you can see it's subtracted. It goes from plus to minus, but it's still got a feather, which is good because then I can feather that subtraction so it isn't quite as hard down the edge. And I don't want it on this piece here because that's the other pillar. That's wrong. So I'm going to bring it smaller. Alt for my Option key. Bring my brush smaller. I don't want to feather this time, so let's take that feather down. And I want to bring this down here like this. Because the light wouldn't come back around the corner there. There we go. And now let's get some light spilling in from that side as well. And get it tinted as well. So let's have a recap again. / key before and after. We're getting there. I think what I'd like to do is make this side a bit more dark to accentuate the fact that we've got light coming in. So we'll do that with a big linear gradient, I think. So create a mask, linear gradient, and let's bring it in kind of at an angle like that, I think. And let's drop the exposure down. That kind of works, I think. Perhaps feather it a little bit more in and then roll the back. So how linear gradient works is over here is the full extent of this exposure. Over here it stops being the full extent and then it feathers off from that line to that line. So if we made this very narrow, you would actually see quite a sharp line. But because we actually bring it out, you don't see the sharp line. Let's roll that back to where it was. Somewhere around there, like that. Okay. Now also because what I said earlier about the foreground, I actually am, even though I've got that light there, I actually want to darken the foreground. So I'm actually going to put another linear gradient on and I'm just going to pull it up like that. Quite feathered. And I'm going to take some of the light out of there like that. Now let's have a look. / before and after. Yeah, one more thing, I think, or possibly two. Let us put a light down the side of the girl, because if the light's coming in from this side, it should be lighter on this side. So let's zoom in a bit. And now let us select her as an object. So I'm going to go select object, there, make my brush a bit smaller. Left hand bracket key I was using there, and I'm going to just draw on her. And the beauty about this is you do not have to be precise. And you don't even have to fill in the gaps. It should fill it in for us. Okay, now I've got that selected. I just want to brighten her on one side. Lots of ways we can do that. We could use intersect, and I'll put a link up above now to a whole tutorial I've got on intersect, but I'm going to try something a little bit different on this one, just so it mixes up what we're learning here. And firstly, I'm just going to lift up the exposure on her like that, add a little bit of that yellow in, the white a little bit as well. And now I'm going to subtract on this side with a gradient. So let's click on here and go subtract with a linear gradient. And if I pull the linear gradient in, about there, and bring it over, you can see now from how the overlay is looking, O for overlay, how we're taking it away from this side. What are we taking away? We're taking away the exposure we added. I think I'm quite happy with that. So if we look at that one before and after, before and after. Now look at it in context. So that's backslash, backslash. So we're doing quite a good job here. And I think we're more or less done. As a crop goes, I think I'd like to recrop it again. I'm actually going to make her a bit more central to the picture. So bring that into there and just strain it a smidgy. There we go, before and after. Possibly darken the top here a little bit. So what I'm going to do there is I'm going to add another radial gradient. I'm going to zoom out. I'm going to bring that radial gradient, bear with me, it'll all make sense, there. So it's added, I'm going to try and add a vignette, but I just want it at the top. So by doing that and then clicking invert, I've only got this at the top. So I'll get this just in the corners like this, zoom back in, and then I'm going to just decrease the exposure a little bit. And it just takes that off mostly at the top, a little bit on the side, but you can see mostly at the top, and that just makes it a little bit more realistic, I think. Before and after. Let's add a light beam in. So let's go and create a brush, and let's go from up here somewhere. Move our brush down to here, make it considerably bigger with my right hand bracket key, hold my shift key, click, and that gives me a spread of light coming down. Now into that I want to add some dehaze, and it suggests the light beam coming in, but it's too strong. So what I want to do is get rid of where I don't want it. So let's bring my brush size down again. I've switched on my overlay. I'm going to click on subtract with a brush, and I'm going to get rid of it from here, and a little bit from there, and a little bit from there. Yes, I like that. And why not? Let's put that little yellow cast in there that we had with the rest of it, just a little bit. So we've got our light beam coming in there. Okay, I think I'm happy with that. Overall, I think I'm going to lower the exposure a little bit. What else do I want to do to edit this? Yeah, I'm going to, if this was Photoshop and we were doing a composite, I would actually finish off with an overall tonal change, something to blend everything together, and that's what we're going to do here. So I am going to apply one of the default presets. Let's just go down through them, see which ones we prefer. 2, 3. I think I kind of like 4 or 5. I've got to go 5, and I've got to increase the effect just a little bit. Close that, and lower the exposure a little bit more, and add a little vignette. But there we go. I'm stopping now. The idea here is not whether you like all these adjustments. The idea is not even if you like the edit. The idea is to show you the different tips, tricks and techniques involved before and after. And before I go, if you'd like to click on that subscribe button and press the notification bell, please. It helps the channel immensely, takes no time at all, doesn't put you out, but it helps me. Thank you. Bye for now.